the champion manager of the Houston Astros, A.J. Hinch. How are you, A.J.?
I'm pretty good. That's a pretty good intro, and it feels pretty good to be called a world champion. And I think in part of that lead-in, I realize we're 8 or 9 games into the NFL season. I'm a big NFL fan, and I think we've been playing baseball a long time to get to that point, given we just stopped playing 4 or 5 days ago.
Yeah, I know. Well, you know what? And the reason why we love sports and we watch sports, AJ, as I said on Thursday's show, are the journeys taken by champions, and also obviously those who fall just short. It's not as if the Dodgers are shy of anybody who is waiting for this moment to happen. But just Evan Gattis, his story just absolutely blows me away. And I'm wondering about how you, as somebody who also has a background in psychology yourself, how you manage somebody like Evan Gattis, who has been through so much, to do what he did for your team.
Yeah, no, just through encouragement, and obviously I'm lucky to have these guys on my team, and we get to know him on a personal level. I was at his wedding last winter, and just watching him grow as a man and learning his story and the intimate details and talking to his father and watching him tear up, feeling accomplishment at this level for just the first time. We do so many great things, and we're so fortunate to be a part of this sport, and then it brings a man to tears on the field when you realize the hill you had to climb to call yourself a champion. And I think that it shows, hopefully, everybody that's connected to sports or likes sports or even learns of these stories that so many positive things can happen, and it's happening to good people and people with stories, people with battle wounds and scars from their past. But the look on Evan's face on the field, and we were all hugging, is something that I'll take with me the rest of my career.
Yeah, and then sitting there, seeing him all teary-eyed, and for those who don't know his story, go ahead and Google it, I guess, for the sake of our time together here. And then there's Beltran, age 40, waiting forever and a day, had this moment as well. What was that moment like for you to watch him finally be able to realize that he gets to put a ring on his finger?
Yeah, no, he's one of the last players that's still active from my days. There's a few other, Cece Sabathia, Bartolo Colon, guys that are approaching 40, and I played with Carlos Beltran, and so now to manage him, that was unique in itself. And then as the season went on, and he had a little bit of his playing time taken away, by Gattis and others in the stretch run, and he did so many things behind the scenes for Alex Bregman and Jose Altuve, and came up with some really big clutch hits, including one in the division series against Craig Kimbrell that helped move us forward. I mean, that all comes down heavy on a night where he decided to play another year. He decided to come to Houston. It's not always an easy sell because we didn't have the maybe necessarily the biggest offer or maybe the biggest platform for a guy of his stature to potentially cap his career. But he does it and still comes and wins a World Series with a group of players that he helped solidify both on and off the field. It was a remarkable feeling.
A.J. Hinch, Astros manager, joining me here. And then let's get to Altuve here. I said during your run on this show a couple times, and as you mentioned, I'm a football guy with the NFL Network, even though I called tons of baseball games when I was at ESPN back in the day. But that said, that Altuve's like J.J. Watt, and I don't just pull that out of thin air just because it's Houston, but his actions plug directly into the fans and vice versa. It just seems like there's a feeding frenzy that happens when he hits a double or a triple or makes a great play. What is it like from your perspective, AJ?
Well, it's fun to watch him care so much about everything, whether it's fans, players, coaches, his own performance. He takes no credit, but he shoulders a lot of blame when things don't go well. He really is. I call him the perfect player because he does so many good things, and I think he relates well with fans because when you look out on the field and no matter what field you look at, the basketball game last night or the football game yesterday or the baseball game, these are big behemoth athletes that they're sort of Greek god mythical figures, and then you look at little Altuve who's as relatable as somebody on the side of the street that gives people some connection to this can happen to anybody, and this can, and your skills will outweigh any sort of stereotype. And I'm proud of him. He's a good husband, good father. He's a great example, and he had to live through some really rough years in Houston, wondering if it was ever going to get better, and boy, did it get better.
It did. So now let's get to when you mentioned husbandry. Okay, let's get to the love in the air. Did you know Carlos Correa was going to drop to a knee? Did you know that?
I did. He told me before the game that we needed to win for a lot of reasons, and one was because he wanted to ask Daniela to marry him, and he pulled out the ring from his backpack and showed me, about an hour before the game. So he had a lot on his mind, and the story keeps getting better because I didn't see it happen. There was so much chaos on the field, and I didn't really think about it until I got through some of the media circuit after winning, and was reminded of him dropping down to one knee. So pretty storybook. It'll be hard to top that on any anniversary or any sort of special marriage.
So let me ask you this then: what's a harder rock, that engagement ring or the actual baseball they were using in the World Series, AJ?
I don't know. The ball was flying when it was hot. The ball was flying out of Dodger Stadium and Minute Maid. But you also had two pretty prolific offenses, so I would imagine it's close to a tie.
Okay. And was the Verlander up to nuptials planned? That in Montalcino
yes.
for this past couple?
No, yes. They were planned, and we learned about that after we traded for him. And obviously as the season went on, and talking to Justin late in the season, and Kate was around quite a bit during our stretch run, and it almost became comical that the only way this plays out is we get to Game 7 of the World Series, and they're taking virtually a red-eye flight to Italy to go get married. Two of the bigger personalities, and really great people. I've enjoyed getting to know them. Of course it was going to happen that way. I mean, why wouldn't it? Where his family and her family and people flying ahead to a different country waiting for his season to be over, and it was over with a win. Now,
just a couple more minutes left here. One strategy and then a macro question about what this means, okay, for you in the city. With Verlander, okay, in that LCS, okay, against the Yankees, and he's up there 100 pitches, 110 pitches. Did at any point in time you think of taking him out of that game? I mean, we don't see this anymore. We don't see this type of Jack Morris type stuff in the postseason anymore. AJ.
Yeah, not really. I mean, I think one of the things that I've prided myself in, I've sold this to my players in my organization, that you have to be a blend in this sport, and it's not one size fits all. I don't think that we can simply run to analytics and run it like a math equation. There's a certain strength in that. There's some support in that, and it's right. And I also don't think you can run the traditional way that every old school person wants you to run a baseball team and that's a little bit too stubborn and stuck in their ways. Like, the answer is somewhere in the middle. And I think that's an example, or using your starters for 3-inning saves, or how you handle players. I used a little bit of everything, and the players responded and things went well. But that, you have to combine what you see with what you know, and to be the blend is one way to get to the top of the mountain.
Yeah. Do you hear about it though from the front office? I mean, how does that work when you go out and maybe that book, that binder, those numbers, you're not
right.
playing it to that. How does that work for you?
Well, I think what I'm lucky to have a front office that will listen to my reasoning. They've never asked me to do one thing one way or the other. They've just sometimes ask for my reasoning. And if I have sound reason and I use logic and my own intuition, it's why they hired me to make decisions like this. And they've been very, very supportive. I mean, they're not as sort of analytically mandate as maybe they get perceived as. They're a very strong-minded group as a front office. They're very analytically driven. Our research and development team is exceptional. They provide me and the players with a ton of information. And they're on our team, and they're not trying to govern anything. They simply have asked me from time to time, like, why we're doing this or why we're doing that, and certainly giving us the information to make those decisions.
All right, and then the last two questions for you here. What does this mean for Houston? And you had that parade Friday. There was a photograph, I don't know if you've seen it, of a family in a gutted-out house where the electricity allowed them to still watch you win the World Series. They were celebrating in a house ripped down to the studs. You were able to take that trophy in front of the Rockets fandom last night, where Harden went off. What have you seen? You were so eloquent in putting into words about what you thought this meant Astros baseball to a hurricane-ravaged town. But what about winning it now? What does it mean, do you think?
I think it means, that there's hope back restored in our city, and certainly brought a lot of love back to the city in this rebuild process. And, it's galvanized some of the togetherness as our sports town with the Texans honoring us, the Rockets honoring us, the Dynamo and the Dash. I mean, our entire sports city that's been on the map at the biggest stage for the better part of October has really, resonated with people around. And it wasn't until the parade, and I saw 7 and 8 and 9 and 10-story parking structures filled with people. There, I couldn't see as far as the people were as we were going through the streets. So, I think close to 1 million people were celebrating with us. 60 and 70-year-olds crying to me, talking about the Colt 45s and the Astros organization never winning the World Series. That type of stuff, I think, will resonate with people forever. There's only one first championship, and the 2017 team owns it and is sharing it with a very proud city.
And then what about for you? Let's take a moment for yourself here. I mean, you won a bronze at the Atlanta Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
You were on 4 teams as a Major League Baseball player, joined a front office, was a Diamondbacks manager, and you were young, didn't get much of an opportunity there after a year and a half, and now you're world champion, AJ. What does this mean for you?
Well, it's the most proud moment in my career for sure, and I think for me, like I said about Gaddis or Jose, it really is it feels like the first accomplishment that is beyond words or beyond the scope of what we've ever done. I mean, getting a hit is an accomplishment in the big leagues. Getting a home run is another one. Winning a World Series is really undescribable because of the time. And you think about your dad, your high school coach, your college coach, your mom, just the people that have touched your life to get you to this point. And it's amazing. And it can get better because I know people win multiple championships, but this one will be special for me in this role at this age with this team. There's just a lot of things that came together to make it the most proud moment of my career.
Well, look, I'm a big fan. I really enjoyed watching you with this team and doing what you did with this team. And I'm from New York City, AJ, so that's saying a lot. Okay.
That is. No, that is. And we had to go through Boston, New York, and L.A., so I'm proud of our guys.
Did you see that full page ad the Dodgers took out in the Chronicle?
Did. I did, and I one thing I always tell people is I got to experience this first World Series with Dave Roberts, who's a close friend of mine. Our wives got together, our kids know each other. We worked together, and then I get sent the link to that picture, and I couldn't think of a better man to share the experience with. One family was going to be, ecstatic, and one family was going to be, pretty devastated. But to do it together with a man that I admire was pretty remarkable.
AJ, you make it to Los Angeles. Would love to have you in studio, shake your hand, and then start talking about how you're going to do it again.
Sounds good. Look forward to it.
Okay, you got it. That's AJ Hinch, at AJ Hinch on Twitter.
For more Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Rich Eisen Show app.